gears a little bit, we're going back. What responsibilities did you have at HeartStream throughout your career at Philips? Let's talk a little bit more about you, and then we'll talk again about products.
Sure. Well, I came into HeartStream initially as I think my title was marketing manager, but essentially my mission was we need to do two things. We need to very quickly spool up to a second generation of Forerunner. We designed this thing for a number of things, but scaling it manufacturability wise isn't really one of them. We've seen pretty quickly. So we need somebody who's been involved in product development can do that. And secondly, we got a whole bunch of accessories that we need to round out the product line, and we just need somebody that can work with the engineering teams on that. So I really had kind of a two-pronged approach. There were a lot of different little accessories that we were doing. In fact, we did a very interesting way of demonstrating with pads. We developed a tool for demonstrating the device with kind of a modified set of electrodes for that. This is before we ever had a trainer. Ultimately, we developed that, and I led the marketing effort on that. We quickly spooled up in terms of defining what FR2 was going to be, we went forward with that. And then after the acquisition of HeartStream by HP, I was moved up and became the marketing manager in charge of the business side of the marketing team. So again, we're leading the product management team in the development of products. Did that for quite a while. Then I did some strategic alliances work. I went off in a different direction just because that was a need for the business and I was asked to do it. And then ultimately I got back into marketing, running field marketing, which is where you and I got to know each other. So sort of that interesting little progression.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think, obviously had a wonderful career. You touched on something that hit close to home for us is the manufacturability. As we are progressing towards manufacturing and adopting all of our best practices, it's interesting to hear some of the long lead part times that it takes and different things to make sure we can produce quickly. Any good stories or anything like that around some of the parts or things you guys did on custom components? Because AEDs are around for a long time. I think of the On-Site built in 2003, still selling great on the market right now. You really have to have a lot of vision and foresight of what technology is going to do to not build something that's going to be obsolete in a few years, especially now that you're going through the Class 3 medical device phase. There's not a lot of changes down the road that are available.
Well, this is not really an area of expertise, but I think one statement that a supply chain manager made to me, which I thought was really interesting, is he said, "We're not sourcing components from the same people who build television sets." He said, these are Class 3 medical devices. We have to qualify suppliers in our supply chain for two things: a much more robust set of demands in terms of performance, consistency, and failure rates. Yes. And secondly, the more highly regulated environment that you deal with, and you have to be a partner with us in that. And that applies to everybody in the industry. That's not unique to any one particular company. It is just a part and parcel. And again, not being a regulatory expert, I don't know a lot about the changeover to pre-market approval, but my understanding is that it is harder to make changes than before. And so you just really got to pick your partners well and know that they can support you through the life of your product.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I've learned that, there might be hundreds of people who make resistors out there, but there's only a handful who make resistors for a Class 3 medical device. So you're not getting the same components, and it's been fun for my end to kind of learn all about those aspects of the supply chain management, and gave me a lot more respect for those guys that do that job.
Yeah, I mean, I just recently I bought a DVD player. Somehow we lost track of one when we moved here recently and changed homes, and so went into Best Buy, and just a basic one was $35. And I thought, okay, well, because the cost of goods on something like that and where you get your components has to be, at a much, much different level than in a medical device, which is why medical devices are always going to be priced at a level that's, very different from that standpoint, just because the integrity of the componentry has to be really first rate. You don't want any failures of these devices in the field.
Yeah, there's no,
So,
those are acceptable. So that testing and fail rate has to be super, super low. So
yep, yep,
that's,
yeah. And ideally, ideally, you want to catch those failures before they happen in the moment. Back to self-test.
yes.
Why these devices wake themselves up and test themselves is that if there is a latent failure, let's find it now and get that device replaced so that it doesn't happen in the moment that you're wanting to use it. And again, that's been a pretty successful model. Again, I think it's throughout the industry. I don't know of any manufacturer who doesn't do that, and for good reasons.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, we're of the mindset that HeartStream and Philips had, that you need to do a daily self-test, and there's not a reason to push it. You need to be checking basic functionality every single day on these devices, because you're absolutely correct. You can't have failures in the field.